Hello, everybody. Welcome to another wonderful episode of I Am Patient. I'm your host, Brenda Snow, and as always, it's wonderful to be with you, and thanks for spending your time with us. So, I wanted to tell you we have a fabulous guest, as always. And no, I only don't talk to people with multiple sclerosis, but she happens to have the same condition I do. I want you guys to meet Robin Brocklesby. She's an entrepreneur, owns an event planning company. She's a mom to 3 boys. Fitness and exercise is part of her passion. And I think something really great is an organization she's starting called Embrace the Path, which helps people in their professional careers. But I really love the angle of parents, helping them sort of find their leadership and their voice in being a parent. And she's got a popular TED Talk that you can check out here and see it in the link below. So that's a big mouthful, Robin. How are you?
I'm good. I should probably throw out there that one of my kids is a girl, because if she watches this and says 3 boys, she will say, what? So my middle one is a girl. But yeah, I keep busy. I keep busy in my little bubble world here in Nevada.
In Nevada, yeah, our bubbles of COVID. It continues, but we'll talk a little bit about that. But let's take a step back. I know before we, when we were meeting each other and talking, I said, for me, kind of like really pushing the agenda for patients to be their own best advocate, and particularly in MS. I mean, I remember when there was no approved therapies, no drugs. People thought I was one of Jerry's kids. They didn't know anything about MS. And then, I look at someone like yourself and it makes me feel proud that, there's younger, empowered women still pioneering MS. So tell me about like your journey. What was your diagnosis like? And how has this changed you?
Well, let me start by saying that I am new to this journey. I have been on this journey for about 16, 17 months now. So I guess like everything I do in my life, I jumped in with 2 feet, go big or go home. My journey started with what I thought was a sinus infection. I've always been very into health and fitness, and I have always taken very good care of my body. I've even competed in fitness competitions like bodybuilding competitions. So I'm going to say 3 to 4 weeks prior to the first signs of this disease, I was in Yosemite National Park hiking Half Dome, which is a really hard hike. So I felt really good. My husband got sick, and we thought he had a sinus infection too. So when my symptoms started, we figured I had caught maybe something from him. But I had a small elective surgery, I'm going to say mid-November. On December 13th, we took a quick trip to Southern California, and I was feeling dizzy. I was feeling like the right side of my mouth was a little bit numb. I just didn't feel quite right. I called my doctor, who happens to be a very great doctor. I'm lucky that I can access him very quickly. Some people can't. And he said the same thing. You probably have a sinus infection. Just let it ride out for a couple weeks before we talk about antibiotics or anything like that. It may go away. It didn't. And when I got back from LA, it was getting worse. And so I spent a lot of time in bed. And after about two and a half weeks, I called him and said, it's not getting any better. So I went and saw him. He sent me on a course of antibiotics. And actually, I started feeling a little bit better until one day when I was at the gym. And I was getting little hits of dizziness on and off, but the constant had gone away. So I'm at the gym one day and I'm running on the treadmill, and I noticed that ever so often, and it would be quick, I would just feel like my right leg was a little weaker than the rest of me. It didn't
sort of a heaviness.
Like a little bit of a heaviness. And again, I just ignored it. I thought maybe I had pinched a nerve in my back because I had spent 2 weeks really laying in bed dealing with this dizziness that I had had. But that continued to progress, and it was getting a little stronger, a little more often. And so I called my doctor back again, and I said, I don't know if it's in my head, but I think I have a new symptom. And he too thought,
it actually is in your head with MS, right?
And that comes back into play later after an MRI. But so he said, same thing. You might have a pinched nerve. Now at this point, the dizziness is starting to come back again, and I'm still living my normal life. I'm going to my office. I'm driving my kids around. I'm doing everything that I was normally doing, because on the outside, it didn't look like anything was going on. It was all inside. I knew it, and whatever it was getting worse, and it was getting worse quickly. And so the dizziness. So he wanted me to go see a physical therapist. So I did. And at that point now, I'm starting to get very dizzy very often, but for short periods of time. So the dizziness would last for about 15, 20 seconds. And then it would go away. And this right side heaviness would come back for about a minute, and then it would go away. Mm-hmm. Things continued to progress. The physical therapist is working with me. He's not having much luck. One night I got up in the middle of the night to go use the bathroom, and I fell down because my leg, I couldn't feel it. And my husband, he sat out of bed at 3 a.m. He said, "Did you just fall?" And I said, yeah, I did. And then I got up and my leg was fine. It was really weird. I was driving my youngest son to middle school one day, drinking my cup of coffee in the morning, holding my cup, and all of a sudden I had this quick dizzy spell. And then I couldn't get that cup of coffee from my center console up to my mouth. That freaked me out.
And that's when you're like, okay, this isn't a sinus infection. This isn't a pinched nerve. What the heck is going wrong? Yeah, I remember those times.
Yeah, and so it's continuing to progress. It's now been about 6 weeks since my first call to him about the sinus infection. Mm-hmm. The physical therapist still can't find any rhyme or reason to what's going on with me.
Did they send you for an MRI then?
So after about 3 weeks with this physical therapist, he said, I think we need to get you an MRI. Now, by that point, I am now having trouble putting food on a fork and getting that fork up to my mouth. I remember I called my best friend and I said, I'm not saying this is a joke. I think I'm dying. There's something really wrong with me. I don't know what's wrong, but it's really bad and I don't know. And so went and had this MRI of my brain at that point. And my doctor called me back and he said, well, we had got the results back and we found something. And, he said we found something in your brain. We now know what you were saying wasn't in your head. Like you were really, you were feeling something. And at this point now I'm freaking out and I'm bawling because he's now found something and I have no idea what this means. And I've never had a health issue in my entire life. And how I don't understand. And he is not a neurologist. He's my general physician. And I don't think he wanted to say too much without having more information. Although I think at the time he had a pretty good idea. And so at that point he said, I want you to come in and see me. I'm like, now? He goes, no, we'll come in and see me in 2 days. And I said, okay.
Wow, that's intense to have to wait that long.
Yeah, well, I was out of town on vacation when all of these. So I'm on vacation with my family, trying to, be as normal as I can for my kids to not freak them out. They know something's wrong because mom is falling a lot and having to hold on to walls to stand up straight. And it was a really, really hard time. And so anyway, I said, should I get on an airplane and come right home? He said, no. I said, well, what if I have an infection? Am I going to die of the infection? 2 days isn't going to make a difference. So I came back, and that's when the process started of him working to get me in to see a neurologist, which, by the way, is no easy task. Sometimes it's all who you know to get you. Right. And I was lucky that I knew the right person. But eventually that's what came to be was Robin Brocklesby has multiple sclerosis. And It was a crazy journey to get to that point. When I found out, I felt relief for a few minutes because, we're going through all these things. Now I get this report back of the MRI, and I have no idea. I don't speak.
You get something, yeah.
So I'm Google searching what all of these things mean, and tetragonal matter and white matter and gray matter, and I didn't know T2 lesions, and everything's coming back.
Lesions, and
it's coming back in my research as multiple sclerosis.
Now, do you have lesions in your brain and your spinal cord?
I do. I not a lot, luckily. I have 4 in my brain and 1 in my spinal cord. So I was looking at all these things thinking it could be MS, it could be ALS, it could be Parkinson's, it could, and ALS, of course, the worst thing is what stays in your mind until somebody tells you it's not the worst. No matter how much you wish you could make it not be the worst thing. And I hear this from people now over and over and over. They read multiple myeloma and they think, I have cancer. And so when the neuro finally said to me, you have MS, I actually felt relief because I'm like, oh, good, I'm not dying. Okay, I could deal with the MS. Mm-hmm. And when he started explaining to me that he could get my symptoms under control, because at this point I was a pretty big mess. I was no longer driving. I was not barely functioning at this point. I was really bad. And apparently was in a very severe flare-up is what I now know. But he said we can get your symptoms under control, and he did. I was so thankful that they could do that.
Well, that's key. And like I said, I've had MS for probably 26 years now. I had to do the math. I was diagnosed in 1993, but when I was diagnosed, there was no treatments available. Period. End of discussion. And currently, I think there's over 21 therapeutics available. So it's just such a more hopeful and optimistic time. Not that I want anybody to ever get any bad diseases, but there's so much more one can do to control the progression and help delay, the exacerbations and the severity of attacks. So I kind of want to pivot a little bit to sort of the grieving process. We've talked about a lot of topics on this show, and something, when I was on your website, Embrace the Path, this thing about, leaning into kids and leadership and empowering parents. So, it is profound. I mean, your life is changed forever. Like, how do you help yourself and help others sort of grieve? And what advice would you give to parents out there with kids from young to, college aged?
Mm-hmm. I think people assume grieving means something you do when somebody dies, but grief is a natural part of the change process. In fact, I have seen it over and over and over again rear its head since the coronavirus became apparent. I have seen it with people, especially in my industry. The event industry has just been nailed. We hit a brick wall the day that COVID started, and we will probably be the last industry to pick back up. And that's a lot of people, 12 million people in the US. So I have seen them, so many of them grieve this COVID thing, which is no different than being diagnosed with a chronic illness. You have to go through the shock and the denial. And then the anger. I was so angry. I was so angry at my own body and my own immune system because I took really good care of my body, and it still did it to me. I ate healthy. I followed all the nutritional protocols that when you're given a diagnosis like this, you go and you explore them, the Walls protocol and the best bet. I did all of this, and I still got it. So then I went the exact opposite way and said, forget it. I'm going to eat everything because it obviously didn't work. And I gained 20 pounds. That didn't work so well for me. The bargaining, I really thought, God, I really pissed somebody off. And I sat in my own head for a long time and thought about, God, what did I, maybe I shouldn't have fired this person 10 years ago. Maybe I should have talked differently to this person. Maybe this is, I'm not that religious, but maybe this is God's way of getting me back. Like I went, and that might sound crazy to a lot of people, but this was my grief. I didn't realize that at the time, but that was it. I was sad. I cried constantly. I had, as part of that depression, like, which is kind of that fourth stage. And then I found myself getting to this last stage of acceptance. And kids also have to grieve, and teens grieve. And, one of the things that I spend a lot of my time doing here, my volunteer gig, that I probably spend more time doing than my paid gig, is I'm very involved with Crisis Support Services of Nevada, which is one of the 6 national crisis call lines in the country.
Fantastic.
I'm president of that. And so I have gone through a lot of education on how you talk to somebody that is going through crisis. Hello, talking to myself. Kids grieve in their own way. And one thing I know about kids is they will only ask what they're ready to hear. So depending on the age of your child, they might be a teenager and ready to hear all of it. They might be little, but what they ask, they're ready to hear an answer to. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. And I think it's important to be honest, but to really, think about how you're saying it too. I couldn't hide my symptoms from my kids. It was scary for them. And I could see it. I could see it in how they were acting in school. I could see it how they were acting around me. And what's equally interesting is now that I'm pretty much back to normal right now they act back to normal. Like they've forgotten. I'm like, can't you do the dishes?
Yeah.
My mom wasn't feeling so good. So, they too can bounce back. I think it's also really important not to get stuck in any one of those stages. Not to say that there is a timeline on when you should experience the denial part and the anger part and the bargaining part, but it's very easy to get stuck in one of those stages and not move out of it. And you really have to be aware of that. And if you're in one of those stages and you can't get out of it, I'm a big believer in therapy and talking to people. And if you can't afford a therapist, then talking to somebody that can be a good sounding board for you.
Great advice.
Yeah, because it is very easy to get stuck one place and not get out of it. And having MS sucks. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but I have it. So it's here, it's not going anywhere. And I get to pick how I'm going to respond to it, so that has helped me on how I'm going to accept it and move forward with it. And it wasn't in my wheelhouse before, but it's in my wheelhouse now. And I think we all have that. We have that option. We don't get to choose much in life. We really don't. And Brenda, you run a big business. I've run a business for, my entire adult life too. We're control freaks, right?
Sometimes I say that's why we got MS.
We blame it on that all the time. And actually, I do a talk about stress management because there's a part of me that wonders that, all these years of stress that I caused that. But I think in the end, what you learn is you almost can't control anything except the way you treat other people and, the way you treat yourself and the way you respond to crappy things or good things. That's about all you can control in the end.
That's true. And I think that's part of the art of living with a chronic condition. It's not like a cold or that sinus infection that you thought you had where you can take something. And I have found, 17 months, you're doing great. You really, really are. I'm very proud of you. I have found that over the years too, it's really important. And I think I've seen this with cancer patients, rare disease. So I really like what you said about not getting stuck in these stages, but also it's so just because I've had MS for so long doesn't mean that there isn't going to still be, a time that I might be very sad about it or grieve about it or mourn or see changes where, maybe this symptom is getting worse. And I think it's super important to stay present in that, because it's not like just when you accept it and it's a new diagnosis of something, then, you don't have to worry about it anymore. It's a constant, I think about MS every day. Every day of my life, I think about it. Now, I don't think about it so it's, quote unquote, paralyzing me, emotionally. But there's not a day that I don't think of it and goes by. But you're right. It's how I've chosen to live my life and respond to it. And I think also having courage to, I've never hid my disease. I know a lot of people, for professional reasons or whatever, have hid it. But, I just kind of put it out there. And so, I want to always make sure that, nothing is stigmatized. And very clearly, I think it's important to state your needs. I think I've said it on the show before, but my dad for years has always said, you don't get what you don't ask for. Mm-hmm. And it's so true.
Yeah. And two things I want to comment on what you just said. One is, as strong as I may look today, and, and I really try to go through life with I don't use the word positive as often as I use optimistic, because if you're in a lot of pain, it's hard to be positive, but you can always look towards the future. Yeah. But, I had a flu shot 2 days ago, right? And I would be lying to you if I told you I didn't cry for a couple minutes when she gave it to me. Not because I was scared of the needle. I'm not a needle fan, but I've had so many of them in the last 16 years, I've gotten okay with them. But I was scared if it would cause a flare-up, because I've heard it can in some people. And so, I think it's really important to accept every single emotion you have and be okay with them, and then move on from it. Don't let it ruin everything. I think I so agree with you. And as far as the reason I'm sharing my story, is probably similar to the reason that you shared yours. When I decided to go out in public with the fact that I have it, I thought, what do I have to lose? I've been self-employed for 26 years. I can't fire myself. I get a lot of people who do come to me and say, Robin, I'm so impressed that you told your story. I haven't ever told anybody, and I don't want to. And I understand that. Because people are scared that people are going to look at them differently. I've had more people tell me negative stories about MS, unfortunately, than stories about MS.
Yeah.
So the mindset out there is kind of the old antiquated mindset of, oh, I'm sorry you have it. Like, I'm sorry, that really sucks. As opposed to this, what I think is so important, why I'm so excited you do what you do, is because I really feel like it needs a rebrand. Not to undercut people who are dealing with severe MS symptoms. There's a lot of people out there who have very severe symptoms, but there's a lot of people who do not. And to your point, the drugs are getting better every single year. The research is getting better. The research on exercise and lifestyle, nutrition, all of those things are all getting better. So people are living more successfully with it. And I have made the choice that I'm going to be open and upfront about it. And I think that what you're doing is so cool, because there's a lot of MS nonprofits that I've gotten involved in and jumped right into. Was like the number one fundraiser for the Walk for MS here.
Good for you.
Which is awesome. But being in events for 27 years, 28, I also know from planning my fair share of nonprofit events that the way you get people to donate is I always say, like, make them laugh and then make them cry. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of these nonprofits are very focused on the sad part of the disease and not enough on the people who are living successfully with it as a result of their lifestyle. Because you don't make money that way. And
or just being, truly authentic. I think that has served myself, and I've talked to literally hundreds of thousands of patients over the course of the last 2 decades. And I can literally almost say a family and an individual that, is just focused on the authentic piece, the ups, the humor, the highs and the lows. I can almost predict the outcome. Those people tend to do better.
So I think it's really important to focus on the cans and not the cans. We all have cans.
Yeah.
Every single person, whether you have a chronic disease or not, we all have cans, but we all have cans also. And so, yeah.
I can't quit eating chocolate.
But I can use a stevia-based chocolate that doesn't have as much sugar.
That's great. Well, you are a delightful person. Give everybody, your couple thoughts on, motivation, how to stay optimistic, particularly as we move into cold and flu season, and COVID's, unfortunately going to probably be here for a while. What do you want to say to everybody that's got to be inspired by you today?
I feel like it's really important to be super safe during COVID. Be safe, but also don't be so scared to leave your small bubble. Go places where people are wearing masks. I don't want to get this. I mean, I'm on a strong immunosuppressant drug, but I'm not letting it stop me from living my life wisely.
Yeah.
I think it can be very hard to say I'm not going to leave my house for the next year and a half, but I'm also not going to tell you that that's not. We all get our own decision, and that's the beauty of life. But if you're going to stay around your house or not, you have to keep moving. You have to keep strong. At least with regards to MS, this is a neuro condition, not a muscle condition. So you have to stay physically strong. And there are lots of ways to do that at home, even if you don't have a gym to go to. And stress is a really bad thing for everybody with a chronic condition. Doesn't matter which chronic condition it is. Stress really is bad for you, and it sucks. So whatever you can do to improve your stress level by focusing on optimism, by looking for the gifts in everything. COVID has been really hard, but as a result, I'm making huge changes in my life that I probably wouldn't have made had it not been for COVID and MS. And I'm super excited about what's happening like right now, which wouldn't have happened had all this crappy stuff not gone on. So I think you have to look for those gifts. They do exist, even in the worst times. They do exist. So
they do. Well, Robin, I love your attitude and I love your energy. And I want to thank you for sharing your perspective today. And again, everybody, you can look down in the Facebook chat for ways to get in touch with Robin and to watch her awesome 15-minute TED Talk. Okay, so now I have something new to share with all of you. So we always get asked, I want to be on the show. I want to be a guest. So again, if you do, you can message us on Facebook and we will give you a call and have a chat to see, what you kind of want to say. Also, a lot of you want to be patient ambassadors. And while that's not on 100% given or a choice exclusively of Snow's, if you want to put your name in, you can go to our secure contact form, again, on our website, snow-companies.com/patient ambassadors. And I will try my best, along with my organization, to connect you to opportunities in the community, whether you have cancer, rare, whatever the thing is, to start a conversation about the role that you might play. So you can see all of that there down below. And Robin, I continue to just wish you the best of health. Stay strong, and it's awesome. You're going to keep inspiring a lot of people. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Brenda. You keep doing what you're doing too. This is an amazing platform.
Great. Thank you. So listen, everybody, it was great chatting with you again. Lots of love from me to you, and I'll see you on another Thursday. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.